The ocean hides its greatest secrets in silence. For centuries, sailors spoke of sudden walls of water, towering above their ships like liquid mountains. These were not the usual storms or rolling swells of the sea. They were something far more violent, far more mysterious. Waves that came without warning, struck with impossible force, and then vanished into calm waters as if nothing had ever happened. But how can something so destructive appear from nowhere? Men of the sea whispered of them long before science ever dared to admit their existence. From whaling crews in the North Atlantic to explorers crossing the Southern Ocean, the same story repeated. A horizon that rose like a wall, a roar louder than thunder, and a ship swallowed whole. The accounts were dismissed as sailors' folklore, drunken tales told in ports to scare the inexperienced. Yet if they were only stories, why did so many sound the same? Even the greatest explorers could not escape their shadow. Sir Ernest Shackleton, who braved the icy jaws of Antarctica, described a wave that came out of the darkness like a moving cliff of water, threatening to capsize his ship in a single blow. Other navigators, like Jules Dumont d'Urville, insisted they had seen the sea rise higher than the tallest sails. Their testimonies were ridiculed, brushed aside as exaggeration. If these men lied, why would their words echo across centuries of voyages? The denials of science made the mystery even darker. For decades, oceanographers insisted such waves could not exist, that the mathematics of the sea allowed no room for such giants. To them, the ocean was vast but predictable, and the so-called monster waves were nothing more than myths. Yet in the harbors, shipwrecks arrived with bent steel, twisted lifeboats, and broken survivors who swore they had seen the impossible. So who was wrong? The scientists or the sailors? Then came the disappearances. One of the most chilling was the case of the MS München, a German cargo vessel lost in 1978. The ship was built to withstand anything the ocean could throw at her, or so they believed. In the middle of the Atlantic, she sent a final desperate message, and then nothing. Days later, wreckage was found. A lifeboat ripped from its bolts 20 meters above the deck, steel torn apart like paper. No survivors were ever found. What kind of wave could strike with such merciless strength and then leave the ocean calm again? The truth is that the ocean gives no easy answers. Each wreck, each whispered tale, adds another piece to a puzzle that refuses to be solved. The waves are out there, unseen, unpredictable, waiting in silence until the right moment arrives. And though modern science would one day be forced to admit their existence, the greatest question remains. Why do they appear at all? Could the sea itself be hiding a force we still cannot understand? The ocean had kept its secret for centuries, but in the winter of 1995, it finally revealed its hand. Far out in the North Sea, an oil platform named Draupner stood against the storm, a steel giant designed to measure and endure. Its instruments ticked away like a heartbeat, recording every ripple of the waves below. For the first time in history, science had eyes wide open in the very waters sailors feared most. But on New Year's Day, those instruments caught something no equation had prepared for. It happened just after 3 in the afternoon. The storm raged, but nothing extraordinary. Waves rose and fell around 12 meters high, rough but survivable. Then, without warning, the sensors recorded a single wall of water that dwarfed them all. A wave more than 25 meters tall, nearly as high as a 9-story building. A monster. The kind sailors had whispered about for centuries, now staring back in cold, undeniable numbers. The world could no longer deny what the sea had been hiding. This wave should never have existed. According to physics at the time, the chance of such a giant emerging was almost impossible, a 1 in 10,000-year event. And yet, there it was, captured not by frightened eyes or shaky voices, but by hard machinery that could not lie. Scientists scrambled to explain it, writing papers and theories, but their explanations could not erase the truth. Nature had just proven the myths real. So if one appeared that day, how many others had gone unseen? The Draupner wave became a symbol, proof that the legends of sailors carried weight. For shipbuilders, it was a nightmare. Vessels designed with old models were suddenly vulnerable. For scientists, it was a humiliation. Centuries of denial had collapsed in a single day. And for those who had already lost friends, family, and entire crews to the sea, it was something darker. A reminder that the ocean always takes what it wants. But if one rogue wave could appear on an ordinary stormy day, could it strike again, anywhere, at any time? The confirmation of their existence did not close the mystery. It only deepened it. Because the ocean had answered the question of whether such waves were real, but refused to explain why they come or what triggers them. Even today, scientists argue over causes, merging swells, powerful currents, or hidden forces beneath the surface. Yet none of these theories explain how a wall of water can rise out of nothing, only to vanish seconds later. And if the sea keeps its secrets this tightly, what else is it hiding? The Draupner wave had torn the veil from the ocean's secret, but the sea was not finished proving its power. In the years that followed, stories of monstrous waves surged once more, not whispered in taverns or sailors' journals this time, but reported by modern vessels, luxury liners, and research ships equipped with the latest technology. The ocean was speaking louder than ever before, and each time it struck, the mystery only deepened. Take the Queen Elizabeth II, one of the most famous passenger liners ever built. In September 1995, the great ship crossed the North Atlantic, its decks filled with tourists and crew. Then, in the middle of a storm, the horizon vanished. Rising before them was a wave so tall it seemed to scrape the sky, higher than any ship should ever face. The captain later described it as if the ship had been climbing a mountain of water, only to plunge down the other side. The liner survived, but only just. What if the giant had struck just a few meters higher? Would history remember the QE2 as another name lost at sea? The evidence didn't stop there. 3 years later, in 1997, a container ship called the Tokyo Express sailed into the North Atlantic. Suddenly, a massive wall of water struck her, throwing 62 containers into the sea. Among the wreckage was a strange cargo, millions of Lego pieces, later washing up on beaches for years to come. Some laughed at the bizarre consequence, but the incident was no joke. Behind the bright toys lay a terrifying truth. Another rogue wave had risen from nowhere and ripped a steel giant apart. How many other ships had fallen victim, with no survivors left to tell the story? Then came the scientists themselves, caught in the trap of their own curiosity. The RRS Discovery, a British research ship, was on a mission to measure the ocean when it sailed into storms that defied explanation. Instruments on board recorded waves not of 12 or 15 meters, but 30. Skyscraper-sized walls of water striking in succession. The scientists had gone searching for data. Instead, they had stumbled into the jaws of the very monsters they had once denied. If even science ships are nearly devoured, how can anyone claim to understand the ocean's design? And the mystery only tightened its grip in recent years. Off the coast of Ucluelet, Canada, in 2020, instruments recorded what may have been the most extreme rogue wave ever measured, a towering crest nearly 4 times higher than the surrounding seas. Statistically, it should not have been possible. Yet it rose, struck, and vanished. No warning, no trail, just data points and stunned scientists left staring at the numbers. If the sea can conjure such forces in modern times, what horrors did it unleash in centuries past, when no one was watching? The question grows heavier with each encounter. These waves are no longer legend. They are fact. Yet the more we measure them, the less we understand. They strike without rhythm, without mercy, and without reason. For every ship that survives, another disappears into the deep without explanation. So what force drives these monsters? And why do they only show themselves when least expected? The ocean had confessed its monsters were real, but what it never gave us was an explanation. Scientists rushed to tame the chaos with theories, equations, and models, yet each attempt left behind more questions than answers. It was as if the sea dangled clues before us, only to pull them away at the last moment. Why would the ocean show its power, then refuse to reveal its secret? One theory speaks of constructive interference. Imagine dozens of ordinary waves rolling across the sea. If, by pure chance, they merge in the same spot, they can form a sudden giant, a temporary mountain of water. On paper, the idea makes sense. But the flaw is chilling. Interference should create giants slowly, a swell building from afar. Sailors insist the opposite. The real rogue waves come without warning, appearing like a shadow that wasn't there a moment before. So if math predicts a slow rise, why do witnesses swear the wave appears in an instant? Another explanation points to powerful ocean currents. In regions like the Agulhas Current off South Africa or the Gulf Stream in the Atlantic, fast-moving currents slam into oncoming storms. Some say this collision forces energy into impossible heights, birthing rogue waves from the clash. Yet these regions are not the only places where giants rise. They've appeared in calm seas, far from strong currents, defying the very rule this theory depends on. If the sea can conjure them anywhere, then what hidden hand is choosing the moment? The boldest minds turn to nonlinear physics, a world where tiny disturbances explode into chaos. In this view, rogue waves are not accidents. They are inevitable eruptions, the ocean focusing its fury like a lens. The math works beautifully in simulations, but reality twists the formula. Some rogue waves come larger, sharper, and stranger than even non-linear models predict. The ocean obeys rules we have not yet written. If our best equations break against these waves, are we staring at a force beyond science? And this is where the mystery sharpens. Every theory offers a key, but none unlock the door completely. Interference explains part of it, currents add another piece, nonlinear chaos draws the shape, yet none explain the vanishings, the ships torn apart, the walls of water that rise where no theory says they should. The sea keeps its truth close, revealing just enough to tempt us, never enough to satisfy. Could it be that rogue waves are not one phenomenon at all, but many, hiding under the same name? For centuries, rogue waves were dismissed as sailors' folklore. But as science reluctantly began to acknowledge them, a darker realization emerged. The ocean may be hiding far more than we can explain. Take the case of the MS München, a German cargo ship built with state-of-the-art engineering in 1972. She was considered unsinkable, armed with the latest safety technology of her time. Yet in December 1978, sailing across the North Atlantic, the München suddenly vanished. No distress call, no radar signal, just silence. Days later, search teams discovered only fragments, a few lifeboats, life rings, and debris scattered across the churning sea. What startled investigators was the condition of the lifeboats. One had been torn from the ship with such brute force that only an immense wall of water could explain it. Survivors? None. Eyewitnesses? Zero. All that remained was the haunting possibility. Had a rogue wave risen from the dark Atlantic and swallowed a ship designed to withstand anything? But the mystery does not stop with one ship. Mariners whisper of other vessels, tankers, trawlers, even cruise liners, that disappeared in calm seas, as if the ocean had simply erased them. Some are officially listed as lost in storm, yet storm records show no such violence. Could rogue waves be the hidden hand behind countless unsolved maritime tragedies? And if so, why do they strike without warning? Even now, oceanographers admit that forecasting rogue waves is almost impossible. They can appear in the middle of a storm, or on a day when the sea seems tame. One ship may pass unscathed, while another, only miles away, faces a watery giant rising from nowhere. Imagine standing on the deck of a vessel, surrounded by the endless horizon, and suddenly, the sea lifts into a towering wall of water, blocking out the sky. Would you even have time to react? Or would it already be too late? If rogue waves truly are responsible for vanishing ships, the chilling thought is this: how many mysteries of the sea remain unsolved, buried in silence beneath the waves? When the Dropner oil platform recorded its now famous wave in 1995, scientists finally had undeniable proof. Rogue waves were real. But proof only deepened the mystery, because while they could measure it, they still couldn't explain why it happened. Some researchers argue rogue waves form when several smaller waves align at just the right moment, combining their energies into a single monster. A simple theory, but the ocean is anything but simple. If it were just mathematics, wouldn't we be able to predict them? And yet, to this day, no system can tell sailors exactly when or where one will strike. Others suggest ocean currents may play a role. In places like South Africa's notorious Cape of Storms, strong currents collide with powerful winds, creating conditions where rogue waves might be born. But if currents are the answer, then why have such giants been spotted in places where no dangerous current exists? The contradiction is haunting. Science has named them, measured them, even photographed them from satellites. But the deeper question remains unanswered. What triggers the ocean to unleash a wave the size of a building? And why does it choose that moment? That ship? That sea? Sailors say it feels almost personal, as though the ocean itself chooses its victims. A wall of water rising without warning, striking one vessel while leaving another untouched, only miles away. Coincidence? Or something more? Every new theory seems to circle back to the same conclusion. Rogue waves are real, but their nature remains unsolved. And for those who sail the world's oceans, the mystery isn't just academic, it's survival. Because if we still can't predict them, the next giant could already be forming, unseen, unstoppable, and waiting. For centuries, rogue waves were only whispers, ghost stories told in the dim light of ship cabins. Today, science has admitted they are real, but the mystery remains. Why do they happen? And why can't we stop them? Satellites have now captured images of waves rising higher than 10-story buildings, dwarfing the ships that cross their path. Survivors describe them as if the sea itself were alive, choosing a moment to strike, then retreating into calm silence as though nothing happened. One chilling thought remains. How many ships listed as lost without a trace, from ancient galleons to modern freighters, were really victims of rogue waves? How many families were left with no answers, only empty seas where their loved ones vanished? Scientists continue to study them. Radars, buoys, and supercomputers try to forecast their arrival. And yet, no one can guarantee safety. No one can say with certainty where the next monster wave will rise. The ocean, vast and ancient, keeps its secrets. It gives life. It takes life. And sometimes it reminds us that human knowledge is still small compared to its power. So the next time you look out at the horizon and see calm waters stretching endlessly before you, remember this. Somewhere, hidden beneath that silence, a giant may already be forming. Unseen, waiting, ready to rise. And perhaps that is the ocean's greatest mystery of all.